digesting carbs to like fermenting the vegetables instead or something like that there's a transition period for sure.
It ferments inside of you like a beautiful baby.
Yeah, it turns
when you're vegan, you create
I was gonna say like kimchi instead of a baby.
Kimchi is just reproducing all the time.
Yeah. Kimchi, it's like a baby but cabbage. Yeah.
Well, I just did the thing again, Lucas, where like
you did the thing
the
again.
audience enters in the middle, you know, like a play.
Oh shit.
Which is so cool. But for listeners who've entered in the middle, welcome
to the chat.
Oh, welcome to the chat. We remain two Nosy Meerkats, and I am still Gabby Jordan Brown.
And I am still the one who isn't Gabby Jordan Brown. I'm Lukas Arnold. And we have a spectacular guest for you guys today. We have a hilarious comedian. Please give a round of applause for Espi Rivadeneira.
Hey guys.
Wherever you are in your house, just applaud by yourself. Do your dishes, just applaud.
I love the idea that people are like driving and then they start applauding and then just cause like massive car accidents everywhere.
Yeah, podcasting is really dangerous. You know, you cause car crashes.
Yeah, I'm going to try to release this early. I'm going to try to release this episode early in the morning so we can get people on their commute just to cause a little bit more havoc.
Right.
I'm very strategic in being evil.
Chris Christie was a podcaster when he closed the Tappan Zee, Verrazano. What was the bridge he like?
I thought it was the Verrazano, yeah.
Yeah. You remember that, SP? Chris Christie closed the... Chris Christie got so mad at someone who took the Verrazano Bridge to work every morning that he created an entire like traffic delay just to get back at that one person. And it was called Bridgegate, and it was fucking crazy.
Right. Wouldn't it be nice if that was like the story they ran with, but deep down he was like, I'm just trying to get people to listen to my podcast with the downtime they have that they can't cross the bridge now.
That's so badass though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a real girl boss.
I love a tepid conspiracy theory. I love
a conspiracy theory that pits him as like kind of in the, you know, not on the right, but just like, you know, it's not like actually he was doing revenge. He just had a nice little podcast that he wanted everyone to listen to. It's a positive conspiracy theory. It gives the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Aspi, do you have any conspiracy theories?
I was literally about to ask. Go ahead.
Lucas.
We're thinking each other's thoughts. This is what happens in a long marriage, Gabby. You start completing each other's sentences. This is
in addition to the brutal beatings. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God. I'm just like, well, guys, I need to sign off. Yeah. No, I don't know, man. I used to be into like aliens more. Like I was so curious about Area 51, and I think I was the only person that was excited. Like they hadn't they released something about Area 51 in 2020, but like no one cared because Corona was happening. Everyone was like, we're busy being sad. But I don't know, man. I feel like it's just so hard to know what's real as is that I don't really mess with conspiracy theories anymore. I feel like life is just like a mess.
That's a very healthy response.
Yeah.
What do you think got you into Area 51 initially, though?
I always like space, and I'm like, there has to be aliens, you know? I really do think that. I'm like, there obviously has to be some other sort of organism out there. But I think just as a kid, I was like, oh, that seems so cool. And but now I don't keep up. So
it's hard to.
It definitely makes sense because like, I think that we have at least a short list of other habitable planets that are in the Goldilocks zone where they're not too close to the sun where it would burn up and not too far away where it would be too cold, that it's like the perfect conditions and it has like water, it has like different kinds of elevation and rain and weather and stuff. So it has all like the similar conditions to Earth, similar size as well. So it only makes sense to think that there is some form of life that is growing out there in the universe. I completely agree.
Right.
Just as in like a logic standpoint, not in like a conspiracy. Do you think that aliens have visited Earth? Like, what do you think of like visitation stories.
Well, I wonder if they're just like little organisms. I don't know. I know NASA years ago sent out like a transmission signal and they're like, oh, maybe aliens will reply. But I'm like, who's to say they would even know what to do with that? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't know what I would do. Yeah. I would just be like, what? How would you? Because it's like, I think it's just weird they're trying to communicate in that way. So like, I don't think you would be able to. I have no idea what's out there, but I'm sure things have come to Earth already. That's what I think. But is it really like an alien the way people think of them, like in the movies and stuff? Maybe not, but who knows?
There's no way. I mean, I think
Gabby,
people...
what do you think?
I was gonna say, I think people ahead, like there's no way like aliens are the little green things that kind of talk like us but don't.
No.
And kind of know what we're like but don't. That feels like fan fiction. If aliens are anything, they're like plants that walk or like some other weird like thing that we can't even conceptualize. You know, we have no idea.
Yeah. Well, there is a theory that because like, you know, the stereotypical like alien is someone like a super tiny body, giant head, big eyes, that because of like the way humans are different from like other apes, that like humans have like are much skinnier, less muscular, but also bigger brains, that there's the theory that aliens have visited, but they're actually us in the future and they're further evolved in sort of the trajectory our bodies are already on. And they're visiting back to Earth.
Wait, so it's like
our time.
400-year-old you comes back to visit.
It's gonna go millions of years, but sure. Yeah.
Million-year-old you. Your arthritis is off the charts. Things you know that you didn't want to know about your body.
Yeah. Oh God. Wait, that actually brings me another. Would you, if you could be immortal, would you choose immortality? Because I would.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. No, because I remember I had a roommate who he was like, yeah, Lukas, aren't you like afraid of dying? I was like, I mean, like, I don't want to die soon, but I accept and I'm happy with the fact that at some point I will die. I think that it's good to have a period to the sentence. And he's like, no, I don't want to die. I would 100% take immortality. He also was very obsessed with money. I was like, what do you want in life? He was like, I just want money. I was like, and he was like, what about you? I was like, well, I mean, I'd like to pursue comedy. I'd love to have like a family one day. I'd love to have like a house and a garden. I was naming shit that I wanted to achieve and stuff. And he was like, no, I just want money. We disagreed on a lot of stuff. Yeah.
I think even as like, because sometimes I'm anxious and like you don't know what's gonna happen when you die, but it doesn't seem right. And I feel like your life would have no meaning. If you would live forever, there would just be no purpose and there would be no drive to do anything because you have forever.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And everyone around you would die. I can't handle it. My heart gets broken so easily by like the littlest things. And like if people around me I love died, I would be like, all right, well, I can't be here anymore. Like this is awful.
I mean, think about why Edward Cullen was so sad, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone around him.
Because he had to be played by Robert Pattinson.
Damn, roasted.
The real Edward Cullen is like, oh man, I'm that guy from the meme. Like, what? I'm a cool vampire. Like, how'd that happen to me? No, but I hear you. I think I wouldn't want to. Woof, I wouldn't want to be immortal. I mean, what do you do? What do you look forward to?
There's only so many times you can reinvent yourself just to keep yourself interested in stuff. Yeah, at some point you would just run out of shit.
It'd be funny if there was like an immortal comic, like who like did jokes about being immortal. Like so immortality is weird. You know?
Yeah, but that wouldn't even be fair, I feel like, because they'd be so advanced and it's like there's no way I can compete with the immortal comic, you know?
Oh yeah. But also I was thinking like even if you're not immortal but you just live to be very old, like at some point technology is going to pass you. That is just something that happens to everyone, is that you just don't understand stuff after a certain point. So if you're immortal, you would just become increasingly stupid over time and just not be able to function at all without the help of others.
Well, I don't know if that's true, because you would have all this time to do whatever you want.
Would your brain stay active though, in the same way like a younger brain is sort of like healthier and takes in information better? Would you still like sort of, would your body still like depreciate and sort of and not quality, but in ability.
Well, wouldn't it be fucked up? Wouldn't it be fucked up if you were immortal, but like you just kept aging?
That's awful.
Just become more and more withered.
I think when people conceptualize immortality, it's like I'm 25 and I'm going to be 25 forever, you know, or 40, whatever. I'm thinking specifically of vampires. If you can't tell, I'm not thinking of any other kind of immortality.
Yeah,
because I read too much Twilight growing up and watched too many of the movies too many times.
It is one benefit, I think, of going bald, is that bald people, if they hit a certain age and then they just stay that age in terms of appearance. Like Patrick Stewart, he's a hot piece of ass, and he has been since the 80s. He's just
he's good. Immaculate. He's 50 forever. That man is never older or younger than 50 years old.
He's 80, but he's 50.
Would you say he's a celebrity man crush for you, Lukas?
Oh, 100%. He's a tender lover. You just know it. He's also quite built. As for like I saw him a picture that he posted on social media. I was like, God damn, he looks better than I do now. Jesus. Like he's muscular, he's toned, he looks good.
If you look in Lucas's search history, it's all just like Patrick Stewart built, Patrick Stewart social media, Patrick Stewart Instagram.
Yeah.
Do we have celebrity crushes up in here? Espi, who are your celeb crushes?
Dude, my favorite one will always be Robert Downey Jr. I know he's like way older, but I like him so much too, because I know he went through like his addict stage and came out of it real strong. And I respect that so much.
That's sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
At what age did you form a crush on him?
Probably like 17, 18, something like that. I just always really liked him. I always liked all of his movies. I think he's super funny and like charismatic. That's my dude.
That's
my
good.
Dude, Robert. I totally see it. He's a hot guy.
He's a hot dude.
Yeah.
He's introspective. He's smart. He's funny. He's the whole package. Yeah,
he is.
That does make me think something else. When you were younger, did you have any crushes on like cartoon characters or any like a very early crush or anything at all?
Probably, I feel like Ash Ketchum.
Ooh.
Aww.
I think I like driven dudes. Very driven.
That's good.
Yeah.
He was super. He wanted to catch them all.
He did. Yeah.
He'd be a bitch to work for. Like if I were working for Ash Ketchum, I'd be like, "Can't we just catch 3 and then go home?" Like, but no, he wanted to catch them.
You're like, we're done. No, he was super driven. I was like, I like that. He caught my heart. That's what he caught.
Oh, he wanted to catch them all, and he caught your heart. But what about Misty? Were they together or were they siblings?
I think they were together at some point.
Or both.
They're just traveling buddies. They were just traveling buddies.
I wasn't sure if they liked each other at some point.
Yeah, they were just friends. That's not what porn taught me. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's not. I don't think they have any like explicit romance, but you could tell there's like an inclination. Do you know what is weird? Is that I think in like in a card game or something, but Misty grows up. There is one of her like as an adult. That's not
weird. That's to be expected. I mean, she's not an immortal child. Misty, of course, grows up.
Yeah, but yeah, Ash never gets older. But I think at least Misty in some form has grown up.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah,
that is
very very weird.
Do you think she becomes like a soccer mom or something? Like watching her Pokemon play? Or
she did a little bit. She kind of looked like a stage mom with like a really nice coat. She looked like she was saying like, "Point harder with your foot, sweetie." You need like a dance mom.
Like she was always carrying that thing too. Like I feel like moms are always carrying stuff. She always had that egg-looking Pokemon. You know what I'm talking about? She was like carrying around.
Yeah. No, I see it. She's like carrying the snacks. She's the mom that's fucking the coach and you don't know it because the coach has a wife. Is that just something that happened to me? Like my baseball coach in Little League was like definitely hooking up with some random mom who was not his wife, and like is that just like a me thing, or was that everyone?
No, I did not.
I think coaches are just creepy a lot of the time.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
super creepy. Oh my God, this guy. My mom first pointed out to me. My mom spoke to me a lot like I was like a, grown woman when I was like 13.
That's good though.
It is good. Yeah, we were friends. She always says she's not gossiping, she's sharing. So she was like, Gabrielle, I want to share something with you. Because my mom always calls me Gabrielle. My family doesn't call me Gabby. It's all very formal, I guess. And then she was like, in a good way, it'd be weird. Yeah. It'd be weird if they called me Gabby. But my mom was like, I think your coach is sleeping with Wendy. And I was like, no way. But of course I spread the rumor to everyone.
Damn.
Do you think that your mom was like secretly hoping she's going to spread this around? I want to cause some chaos.
No, I think my mom just said it into a void, and like I just did whatever I wanted with the information. Wow. I think if anything, she thought I would be extremely discreet.
She had a lot of faith in you. I would not.
Especially at 13. That's such a like reckless age for anyone.
Oh yeah. No, it was. I spread that shit around like wildfire. Not that anyone on the team listened to me because I was the only girl, because they were all like, oh, yeah, whatever, I don't care. And just kept playing their baseball and scratching their balls or whatever. But I know.
Yeah, not to judge your mom, but that was a poor choice on her part. You shouldn't trust that information with a 13-year-old. That's not good.
Oh,
like
what can you do?
So if she's listening, you're on notice.
I don't think she's listened since the Chris Scher episode.
Oh no.
My sweet mother Espi was like, oh, you have a podcast? That's great. And then our friend Chris Scher came on and was like, I was jerking off on the plane. My mom was like, oh my God, never mind. I can't listen to this.
That's so funny. I don't want my parents to listen to anything. They're such like conservative people. I'm like, you're not gonna like what I have to say. Let's just.
Oh, have either of your parents listened to or seen any of your stand-up?
Dude, they've seen me do improv and stand-up, and they did not like it.
Whoa, wait, tell us about that. Yeah.
Well, so to be fair, I was doing an improv show, like a big one, that was called like Sexy Future Space Lady, and you're like a space lady that like fucks aliens or whatever. So I was like, I don't know why you guys are coming to this, because I was very like, I told them what the show was. It was like really raunchy. And then the stand-up, they were just like, they're like super private people, and Lukas has seen my stand-up. Mine's like very dark. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, you shouldn't say things like that. I'm like, I'm clearly joking, but they're just like, I don't know. They don't really like the idea of like, I remember when I was a kid, they were like, didn't want me to use like AIM Messenger and stuff, because they were like, you need to keep all of your information private. You shouldn't be putting things on the internet. So like, they don't love me doing stand up, and I'm just like, wow, this is what I've chosen to do. Yeah.
Right. Well, luckily everything on AIM went away anyway. So.
No, you're right. It's all gone.
My old company used to use AIM because there was one executive who couldn't figure out any other form of chat except AIM.
That is adorable.
When AIM went under, the company lost like hundreds of conversations. It was fucking wild.
Wait, when did AIM go under? How recent was that?
It was 2018.
It had to be a while ago, right? Oh, it was only 2018. I thought it was gone for a while.
No, it was.
That's interesting.
When I first started at that company, I was like, I can't believe we all still use AIM. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
Hilarious. I think AIM was actually before my time.
No, it wasn't.
I had friends that used it, but
Oh, I mean, come on. Brag. Young Lukas over here. Like,
I'm sorry. I'm just with like some geriatrics right here. I'm just a young gun among these old bitches.
Surely you used AIM.
No, I never did. I got on.
You probably didn't. Wait, you're like 21, right?
Me, I'm 25.
See?
Oh, we're not that old.
No, yeah. I know, but I never. But when I got on like Facebook when I was 13, and that was the first social media, any sort of like, besides like phones, like that was the first thing I used to like communicate with friends. And I had friends that used AIM, but I never got on it, because then it was just immediately switched over to Facebook.
Oh, so you knew of it, but it was
yeah. I had the same relationship to AIM as I did to Vine, which is obviously in all of our
that's ironic considering you like became this TikTok person when people say Vine was like the big, you know, the big starter TikTok essentially.
Yeah, I didn't really get into Vine at all. I mean, it was around obviously, but
yeah, I was never on the. I liked like YouTube compilations of ones, like those were always fun, but I never.
Those are fun.
I really liked Vine.
Yeah, I loved Vine so much. Wait, so but this is a little bit. So something that I wanted to ask you about, Espi, is that I know that last year you did get COVID, and it's affected a lot of people in very different ways. I want to know how it affected, if at all, your mind and your ability to write stand up.
I think it made me like work harder, honestly, because I was like,
that's interesting,
alone in New York at the time. Yeah, well, I had like my ex here, but then we were in a weird spot, so he wasn't around when I had COVID, and so I was like alone, and I had just moved to New York in February, which was like a bad, and I just felt like so lonely and bad, and I was like, I just have to work. Like there's only, so I was doing Zoom mics and stuff, which I know some people have like mixed feelings about. I'm like, if there's nothing happening, I'm always going to do a Zoom mic. I like swear by them. So I'm like, I did get like 15 minutes material out of like just doing Zoom for a month straight. And, but yeah, no, I think it just made me work harder, and it kind of helped me get material, because it was like a dark time and I like dark comedy. So I was just like writing about having COVID and being sad, and it all worked out.
Were you like super sick, or was it more of, you know, the quarantining and like not being able to see anyone that was difficult?
I was super sick, but I'm very extroverted. I hate not being around people. So that was getting to me. And I'm not going to lie, I'm bad at quarantining. Like I still went for walks and stuff. I know you're not supposed to. I was like, I can't stay. I'll go insane. But I was so sick too. It was dumb for me to even try to like walk around, because I would like go down the stairs and be like, okay, time to like go back up. But it was really bad. Yeah, I went to the hospital at one point. I wrote a bit about like me pooping blood because of it. And I just was so like, I was so like beat down in my brain that I was like, this is funny. Like I didn't care. I don't know. I just didn't care about like, and then everything's fine now. Like I'm all good. But it was just, it really, I don't know, man. It was like, I just moved to New York. I think it almost like catapulted me into working really hard, which is good.
For sure.
I find that inspiring, that like that any kind of hardship you found is like inspiration and motivation to work harder and write more like that. I'm just really impressed, because I'm not sure if I would have had the same reaction. Because I as much as I love dark comedy and I do like to write, it's not something I necessarily am just organically drawn in terms of writing as much, even though I am trying to work on it. And so I don't know if I would have found quite the same motivation. So I'm just very impressed with that.
I hear you on it though. Like, I think, you know, I don't know that I necessarily like gravitate towards dark comedy in my own writing, but I do think comedy is how I understand the world and understand like what's happening. So when you're in a place that's so dark and terrible, all you can do, or at least all I can do, is be like, there's something funny about this and find it.
Well, I think you have to. If you're like very depressed, I think to get out of it, it does make things a little lighter. Because I was like, I could either just not do anything and be sad and anxious about this, or I could like write about it. So I've always been one to be like, I think comedy is good, because I started when I was very depressed, and like I think I've always lean towards like making fun of things that are kind of serious, because I'm like, we should be able to laugh at this stuff or even draw attention to it if it is like a bad thing, you know? And like, but it is hard to write. I've had a weird time because I've been feeling like better in my life, which is good. But then I'm also like, it's so hard for me to write light, because I've been trying to write lighter jokes and it's like not working out. I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm like, I'm happier now. Don't know what to say. Sort of happier now, I guess. I don't know.
That's kind of adorable. Like, do you have to sort of like force yourself to like write about lighter material? Like, what's your process necessarily, or something that you try to draw your attention towards? Is there anything?
I haven't written. I tried to write lighter material, and then I was writing bits about like murder, and I was like, this is not lighter than, you know, I was like, I just think that's not my vibe. Maybe I don't know what to do, because then I was like, maybe trying to write less about, because my material is so personal 90% of the time. I was like, maybe try to write about other stuff, but then that was equally dark, and I was like, this just is probably my style, which is fine.
Yeah
Sure.
Our friend, you know, Chris Scher, obviously. But yeah, Chris Scher is someone who said something that I really, really like, which is that lean into whatever makes you specific. Don't run away from it, run toward it, and try to make it grow. Like, because we were talking to on an online open mic last year, a very good comedian called Mac O'Hara. Do you know Mac?
Yeah, I love Mac.
Yeah. Well, he does amazing one-liners, very short form stuff, and
it's so dark.
Oh my God, he's amazing.
I adore him.
I love it. He's so like one of my favorites.
I can't get enough. But yeah, he was talking about like how he wasn't necessarily uncomfortable, but he was talking about like how like he wanted to try long form stuff. He was worried that if it was like too short stuff, that it was too one thing. And Chris is like, no, that's what makes you wonderful. That's what makes you funny. Lean into that. And I was like, it was just a beautiful thing to hear. I was like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense.
That's such great advice.
Yeah,
it is.
I think there are times where I've tried to change my material, especially when I first started. I didn't really know, but like, I'm like, the dark stuff just works for me. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it doesn't, and that's awkward. If I'm in front of a crowd and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh God, well, this is the next 10 minminutes, so buckle in.
Well, I think the worst thing is trying to guess what a crowd will or won't like. Like, I feel like I maybe told listeners this at some point, but I have all my jokes categorized in this app called Evernote, and it's like super weird and like serial killery. And it used to be that I would put categories on them, like this is more, you know, alternative or whatever, and this is better for a club. And then I try the jokes out at a different crowd, and it's like the crowd that this was supposed to work for didn't like it, but the crowd that, you know, wasn't necessarily going to be the one for this joke, like ate this thing up. So I think that comedy is so, like, I don't want to say subjective necessarily, because everyone says that, but you know, unique and individual. Like, you can kind of be anybody and have any old thing, and if it's funny and if it's unique and if it's you, like, people resonate with it.
I agree with that. I think it's like the confidence you bring, and then like being honest, because I found anytime I've tried other stuff that didn't really like sit with me, the audience wasn't buying it. It's like, oh, I'm not into this, so they're not gonna be. I think as long as you're like having fun and you know, and you're just confident about it, because whenever I've gotten nervous and like, I don't know if they're gonna like this, like it just doesn't work, and I'm like, no, you got to go up and be like, they're gonna like it.
Right,
you got it. Whatever you're saying, say it with your chest. 100%.
Because the other thing is, when you're watching someone perform, like, not even when you're performing, but when you're watching someone perform, there's this part that's like, have you ever like watched a friend or something in like an improv show or like a weird dance show or just something that's kind of like weird, and you just have that moment of like, oh no, like what's gonna happen? Are they gonna fall on their face? The comedian is the person who reassures, like, no guys, like, I'm not gonna fall on my face. I'm gonna stand behind everything I say up here, and because I'm not worried, like, you won't have to worry. It's like what Jim Carrey said. It's like the audience wants to be free of concern, you know, for 5 minutes
absolutely.
or so. Yeah,
that's so true. Yeah, Espi, I wanted to ask, like, when did you start stand-up? Very quickly.
It's like literally three years ago, I think.
Okay.
2 days ago.
What was it like the first time you got on stage? Did you have any nerves, and how did you deal with them?
It was horrible. It was like one of the worst sets I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not exaggerating. I was so bad. I was like I was shaking. I remember, I think my first few months, people were like, it was hard watching you. Because I don't know why, too. I did improv before, but I just like being alone up there. And I used to be very shy. Like, even just a few years back. I think I've always been a little more shy until like now, I guess. But it was so hard. It was bad. There was like no hope for me. And then all of a sudden it was just like, I think just after the reps and like just starting to get better and getting used to it. Yeah.
So you started doing improv, and then what? Because I also used to do improv before.
Yeah.
I did stand up. What made you want to do stand up instead of improv?
They're a little too happy.
Oh my God. Thank you.
They're like too happy. I was like, I can't.
When they're not happy, they're honestly fucking weird, like antisocial, like kind of. I feel like I would try and talk to other improv people and they would be so funny on stage and they'd be so like off stage. Weird. I like couldn't talk to them. Yeah. You talk to stand-ups, you're like, oh my God, like this person is of the universe. It's thank God.
Right. Yeah. If anyone's like too happy off the bat, I'm very suspicious immediately. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, it's not that great. You know, like I'm like, let's be realistic. There's not that much that I don't know. I don't know if I'm just like a depressed person, but I'm like very suspicious of really happy people. And I did improv for like 3 years, pretty hard. And all of this stemmed from, I was like a really bad alcoholic. So it got me sober. And I just found being on stage is like a different kind of high that's healthy, that I really enjoy. But I got into it. I was like tired of improvisers, and people were like, oh, we think you would like stand up. So I just went into it, and immediately, even though I was terrible at it, I was like, if I can get over these nerves, I'm like, I know this is going to be for me. Like I had something just was like, go back up on, just keep going, like get through this rough spot and then you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Cause like, I don't know if you know, I nearly fainted a couple times when I was just starting out. It was once at an open mic and another right before a show, I nearly fainted. And I was able to get through with some like anxiety diffusing exercises that my therapist taught me. But like the nerves are so fucking real. Like, so you said that you were like shaking. Like, was that it? Or just like, how did it affect you physically?
So sweaty, just like disgusting, like really like a lot of sweat. There have been times where I felt like that too, where I'm like, I feel like I might pass out. But it is a lot. I think Pete Holmes had on his podcast where he was talking about how it's literally like you're surrounded by predators pretty much. You know, it's like, it's weird to have that many eyes on you. It is like people's biggest phobia to go up in front of other people like that. So I just kept telling myself, I'm like, oh, this is like a normal reaction, you know, but it's going to change. You're going to get used to it. You're tough. And nobody's going to like attack you. I had to be like, this is the worst thing that could happen is people don't laugh, you know, and it's like, and you just move on. But it's such a, stand-up is so intense. It's very intense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, I have so many questions for you now, but the first one I want it to ask is, so you said that you are now very extroverted, but before you were very shy. So like, when did that shift come into play for you?
I think because I was like painfully shy. I remember when I was like in high school, didn't have a lot of friends. I remembered working at Famous Footwear, and then we had like headsets on. I remember my boss being like, you can't hide between the shelves. You got to like talk to customers. And I was like, I don't want to come out. And, but it's weird because I was such a bad alcoholic, but I almost felt like drinking made me less shy after the fact too. Cause I realized I was like, oh, you can do like dumb stuff. Not that you should, and people will still like care about you or, you know, or like be more. And then I kind of realized like, the drinking was bad for me, but I never did anything crazy or hurtful. It was just like hurting my body. But, I just realized too, like I would be more talkative, and, I was like, oh, people like you. Just, you can do that without, when I got sober at first, I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And then I was like, no, just, you know, it's a muscle too. But now I'm very like, I love people. I'm like, I need to be around people. I love meeting people. But I think the stand-up has made me much more like, I think the stand-up's changed me most of all, because you're just up there saying whatever. Especially mine is so dark and like about very intimate parts of my life. I just don't really care. Like if someone comes up to me in real life, I'm like, whatever, this is easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I could say, like, I remember I saw a set you did at Little Panda Productions in Prospect Park.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, and it was like, I think it was like right after your breakup, if I could say.
Yeah.
And like, I remember just being so blown away. And that I think you left like immediately afterwards, and I was so disappointed because I was like, I thought, oh, I need to go up to her and say how good that was. I physically had to do that, and I asked like Maxim, I was like, hey, where is she? And he was like, oh, she left. I was like, okay, and then I had to like message you to be like, that was
oh, thanks so much. I remember
it just
that.
blew me away.
Yeah, I
was gonna say like. I'm sorry.
Lucas, you are
fucking hate
so
this delay.
transparent.
No, go ahead.
Oh
go
my
ahead.
God.
Ah!
Classic men talking over us. Huh?
Yeah.
Classic man move. Lucas Arnold, the most misogynistic.
Yeah.
It's not funny because he's one of the least misogynistic people.
He's yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, women voting. When's that gonna end?
Hopefully soon.
But I did want to. I remembered something.
It.
Yeah. Just stay home, doll. But there was one thing that I remember you said when I messaged you on Facebook, is that you said that it was like super unprepared or very sort of a slapdash set, like it was, and I was like, if that's what you're like without preparation, I was almost afraid of how good you would be with preparation. And so like, if you remember from that set, how prepared were you? Like how much was like really written out and organized and stuff?
I mean, I have worked on it. From that time period, that made me grow so much. Just moving here and then all the stuff I went through, I feel like made me grow a lot, because then I realized like, I think I was so sad that I didn't care what I was like saying. So I just like, I think part of why like I used to drink so much too is because people are like, oh, you're so like, my family's like, oh, you're so emotional, because they're very conservative and stuff. So you got to keep it in, or like, you know, I think people tell women too, like, don't be overly emotional and all that. And I've always felt like I'm too much for people. And then I finally realized, especially with stand up, I'm like, it's not too much. So now I try to let my emotions lead my sets, because I'm like, that's what people love, seeing me go off the rails. And I'm like, that's what I want to do a lot. And I've been doing it more like, but so I think I do. Yes, I write every day. But it's not really the writing. It's more like people like seeing me getting a little nuts. So I just like, and I trust that, because at first I was like, oh, that's too much for people. And then I realized, I was like, no, that's what's really funny.
Yeah,
that is definitely. So cool.
I once saw a set that Maxim Allen did where he just had like a bad day, and he was just ranting and just letting all of his negativity just pour out, and it was one of the best sets I'd ever seen him do. Because I would say very similarly, like, not that he's necessarily like shy, but I think he's very like, he's a bit like not necessarily introvert, but he's a very guarded, put together. So to see him like break apart as this very put together person was just so fun to watch. Anytime I think that you see someone unleash something you feel they've kept in a long time, it's always cathartic. It's always fun to watch. Definitely.
It is. And I think everyone wants to do that too, but people are scared to. Everyone relates to having a bad day and like things like that. So it's like, I think people should let it out more.
Is there any advice you could give to someone who might be listening who wants to try stand up on getting in touch with that real sort of core person inside of them that might be dark?
It might take a while to get there, because I feel like I've always had that inside me, but I was scared too. But I'm like, just keep, no matter with stand up, you just have to keep trying, you know, and then like, and then write about the personal stuff and go up and try it. And it might not, I've bombed so much, especially with my like dark material. I've made people very uncomfortable. But it's like, you'll figure it out. You just have to like dig through that. And as you get more comfortable on stage, it gets easier to like be in touch with that emotional part.
I love a good bomb. You don't learn shit from good sets.
You don't. You have to. You have to bomb.
You don't learn. That's honestly the thing. And I've been doing stand-up for less long, I think maybe than both of you guys. But I I think that's the one thing I'd teach people is like bombing is actually not bad. It's the medicine, and good sets are the sugar. You know, you can't eat sugar all the time. It's not good for you. You also can't drink medicine all the time. It'll make you sad.
Yeah.
Unless you have like polio or something. I don't know.
I was literally thinking, I thought you were going to go into a Mary Poppins song like Sugar Helps the Medicine Go Down. That's what I thought you were about to go into.
I think you just have me pegged for this huge Mary Poppins stan. And you know what? You're right. You're right. It's my favorite movie. So you're right about that. But Espi, how do you write? Like, what is your process? Like you said, you write every day. Like, how do you like sit down and write a joke every day?
I probably seem a little crazy. I do sit here and I talk to myself a lot and I drink a lot of coffee, but it's a little manic looking. If somebody was watching, they'd be like, what's going on? But I just talk to myself and I try to sound like, I'm like, is this funny? You know, but I think that's the best way for me. Because there have been times where I've sat down and tried to write like without really being interactive in that way. But I'm like, because I think too, coming from an improv background, I'm like, I need to like say it and kind of act it out.
Yeah, I feel like you and I have so much in common in that way. I used to talk to myself on the phone. I used to like, I would go on the street, I would walk down the street, and I would pretend to be having a conversation on the phone, and I would just be writing bits. Swear to God.
That's awesome.
It was fucking weird.
Insane.
I felt like people were starting to get suspicious. At one point, I did it outside of like my college, and like this friend saw me, and he was like, "I didn't want to interrupt you. You looked like you were like breaking some really hard news." I was like, "No, I was just writing about I don't know, trees."
That's so funny.
Yeah, we comedians we're not right in the head. I think.
No. I don't think we are. I don't think any of us are. I think it's crazy to go up on stage the way we do.
What's interesting though is that like I think I would be similar to both of you if my mom didn't hound me as a kid for talking to myself and like playing out scenarios in my head, or even just like, you know, I think everybody does like that thing where like you're playing out an argument the way you would have wished it went.
Yeah.
I think everybody does that. I would do that very loudly, and I was very, and my mom would be like, no, stop doing that. It's not good. And I became like just very, very neurotic and like cagey about opening my mouth at all. And so I feel like I'm watching what I am on the inside right now, which is interesting. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like that's actually kind of a good sneaky idea to like pretend you're having a phone conversation on the street. Like I weirdly like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to look like you're not talking to yourself. You know, AirPods help. I honestly think the idea of talking to yourself as some kind of pejorative thing that makes you crazy is like so funny to me, because like honestly, talking is how we go through most of the world, and then when we have a silent thought, we're supposed to use our hand and write it down. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like talking, that's definitely how I write, because I think fast, so I want to talk it out, and then I'll say it into a recorder, or I'll like type it out, because my typing's gotten like faster than my hand with all the technology we have now. Some Black Mirror shit, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you though, because I feel like there have been times where I have been like, sit and write and be quiet, and then like it's almost like I can't be funny because I feel I wouldn't say it like that. Like I need to talk it, and then the ideas come really quick, and I'll just like jot notes down. I'm like, oh, okay, that's because I hate sitting and being quiet. I can't even. I notice I like get up a lot too when I'm writing. I'm just like up and down. Like I can't sit still for too long.
Yeah. Well, another thing is that the joke isn't just the words on the page. I think it's intensely tied to your tone of voice, to the kind of facial expression you have. That's all part of the joke. And so it only makes sense that you rehearse it using every part of your body as you would on stage, instead of just like writing it down or like thinking. Like you have to use, nothing is disconnected. I definitely agree with that.
That's why it's such a different form than like writing anything else, like writing things that go down on the page, or even like late night jokes. It's so different. And I don't know, I think it's really interesting. We got asked by not to go into listener submissions yet, but we got asked by a listener if we were full-time comics, which I found very flattering. But it was more like, are you guys full-time comics? Like, kind of question. And it's like, no, but like, yes, because I'm unemployed, but also like, no, because we're not famous. But it's like, you know, I guess if you just do comedy, you're a comic. And that's what, you know, that's what it made me think.
Yeah. I wonder what the tone of voice was. That listener might write and be like, no, it's because I love you. And deep down, they might be like, no, I'm just trying to save face. I hate these people.
I'm worried, but also like, kind of excited by the prospect of like we should get like a burner and just have like a voicemail line for Meerkats.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Or we could no, that's a good idea. I think you could do that with like a Google Voice account. I think that's something we could do. All right, that's an idea. I'm gonna write that down. But okay. Oh wait, so but Espi, like do you have any dreams outside of stand-up? Do you have any like, I want to like be a writer on the show, or I want to be in like, do you have any sort of ancillary dreams?
I feel like I'm kind of just going with it right now. Like I've done sketch and improv, but I'm like, I feel so passionately about stand-up right now. I'm like just putting all of my energy into that and seeing where it goes. Cause I'm like, I'm always like trying to be funnier. So I'm like, I just want to be the best writer possible. And I'm a little bit like, I think I am pretty hard on myself. So I'm like, I don't know if I would be ready to be a writer or something on a show or whatever. Because people are like, you should apply for this thing. And I'm like, I want to feel like really good about my stuff and really strong about it and organized better and things like that. So I'm like, I'm just doing stand-up. I think like some shorter term goals is like make money off stand-up, off shows, off mics or whatever. And because I don't want to work for anybody again. I hate work. I hate corporations and jobs. I'm like, I'm not going back. So that's my goal is like just stop working.
And to the ability that you can like talk about it without someone like contacting you and getting you in major trouble. Do you have any like really terrible work stories? Like just brutal like times in an office? Oh my God. Tell us.
Dude, I was teaching in Texas and I remember like this principal I had was such a bitch. I don't know if I can swear on here, but that's what she was.
Yeah,
you can swear, of course.
She was awful. I'm like,
I told listeners Lukas beats me, so I think you can swear.
That's a skill to do over Zoom. I'm putting that on my resume. Like,
his hand came through the screen and just slapped me in the face.
Yeah.
She was awful, and the workload for teachers is just insane. They have you doing a million things. You're there for like, honestly, sometimes 12 hours, you know? And this lady, like, I remembered one time just having separate from work, having like, I'm always having like boyfriend problems, having like problems, right? And I'm like crying in my room, like the kids are at specials and she comes in, she sees me crying and she's just like, oh, when you're done with that, can you swing by my office? And I was like, this lady's a monster. You know, I was like, how awful are you to just be like, but she would do things like that with people. She had like no social skills. Like nobody liked her, but she would just dump like more and more work on you and be like, oh, you got this, right? And you're like, no, this is not even part of like my job. But it's like the principal's telling you, so you got it. But I was like, I quit teaching mid-year last year because I was so fed up. And I was like, I'm going to New York. I'm going to stand up. Like, I just hated it so much. And it feels like it's not even about the kids anymore. It's like so much paperwork and meetings. And like, I was like, what are we doing? This is wrong. It just felt wrong.
Did you like working with kids or like what? Do you have any shitty kids that you can talk about?
Love kids. There's always like bad kids, you know, but I love working with kids. They're tight. They're really fun. And I was really good at it. Like I'm very good with kids. And they got me a lot of good bits, I feel like. But yeah, that's what I loved. But then I hated like, and it was so funny because they were cool. Like I wanted to teach them about life stuff a lot because I was like I was like a bilingual math teacher. And but these kids were like lower income students. So I was like, y'all need to learn how to like express your emotions and stuff. Like I taught them how to meditate and I taught them how to be, you know, artistic and whatever.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I felt like I had to like do it in secret because it's like, this is the schedule and you have to. And so I knew like if the principal was coming, I heard like her heels, I'd be like, guys, get into formation. Like we've been doing math all day. And they would like run
oh my God.
into their
You're like
spot.
School of Rock, but
I was
therapy.
gonna say,
yeah. So everybody would hustle. It was so funny.
It's crazy how teaching is like that. It's like, I was a TA at a Hebrew school. It was my first job. And there was this little kid who he had like ADD, ADHD, and he couldn't learn the prayer. He couldn't learn the prayers sitting down. So I was like, okay, Graham, we're going to work one-on-one. And I made him run back and forth saying like a new word of the prayer every single time. And then this guy who like was one of the admins of the temple came up to us and he was like, this is in a temple. You are in a holy space. Like this is not, this is not what God intended. And then of course, this kid goes to the final, like, you know, there's like a service at the end of their Hebrew school time, and he sings the whole Micha Mocha like better than he ever has before. But of course, this guy comes in and he's like, no progress allowed, not in the holy space. Like, fuck you, man.
Oh my
you know?
God.
No, I hate that so much because it's like everyone learns so differently, but then they push. It's like we all need to do this the same way, and this is the most important thing. And I'm like, I hated it so much because I would just. It was funny because I would bounce off. I would like not use the curriculum a lot. And I remembered my kids like having the highest scores for a couple of years. And I was just like, because I let them like do more. And then it's like you take time for them to like take care of their mental health, and then they're going to achieve more because they feel comfortable and safe. But it's like, they didn't care about that. It was always like testing scores. Like we need them to be the best testing scores. And like the way you're going about this is totally wrong. And you don't seem to care about the kids at all, which I hated. I couldn't stand that.
Jesus.
It sounds like you had a conscience, and that sucks, you know?
Wait, Gabby, at what to this guy who was like critical of you, like, no, this isn't what God intended. At no point were you like, this kid has ADHD that God made. Fucking let's work around it. Like,
well, I couldn't say anything in front of the kid. I was just like, okay, we'll stop. And then the guy ran away. And of course we like didn't stop, you know, like that's what you have to do in those environments. I think sometimes you have to like pretend you're going by the rules and then actually do the thing that helps people.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Like School of Rock, which was wonderful because it was like, oh yeah, he actually helped like kids get out of their shell and love themselves and stuff. It was so So yeah, this is
a great movie.
Yeah, it was so good.
I feel like that movie changed me in ways that I didn't even understand.
Same. It's such an amazing movie. It's like one of my favorites.
It's so good. Yeah,
it's so funny.
What I remember, I saw that with my cousins, and my cousin Ella, she had the same wristband as the drummer, and she was like, he stole that from me. I was like, no, he didn't. She was like, no, he didn't. That's all she said.
The kid from School of Rock stole the wristband from your cousin. No one knows this.
No, but she was dead convinced, or she was just trying to convince me of that. I was a very gullible kid for sure. But yeah, wait. So did you share like your ambitions for comedy with any of these kids? Did they maybe encourage you? Because I have heard stories of like comedian Chris DiStefano, who is a physical therapist, and he talks about how someone who he was giving physical therapy for said, hey, follow your dreams. This is what you need to do. Don't worry about me. This is your life. Like, and so I was wondering.
Well, I would talk about it because I told the kid, I was pretty honest, because it was weird. People would be like, oh, you shouldn't let anyone know at school that you're a comedian. And I just hate, like, I just can't hide my feelings and like what I'm doing and stuff. So like I did tell them, I was like, this is my dream. And they were excited for me when I like quit and everything. You know, I had a new principal that year that was so cool. And he like, when I went into the office to resign, he was like, oh, what's going on? And I was like, and something in me was like, I can tell this guy. And I was like, look, I'm a comedian. And he was like, oh, go to New York or LA. Like, what are you doing here? And I was just like, he was so supportive about it, which was so cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
He helped me. Yeah. Because usually what happens is you break your certificate and you're kind of in trouble and you can't teach anywhere. But then he helped me like not happen. And so then I could teach here and get on unemployment and stuff. So it all worked out. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people were like, that's your thing. Like, you have to go do that.
That's so
cool. That's
and
so
I love
encouraging.
The little kids were like telling you to do. It reminds me of. Did you ever see Wet Hot American Summer?
No, I haven't.
There's a scene, not to give away too much, where Molly Shannon plays this counselor who just had a divorce, and like a bunch of just like 6-year-old kids like talk her through the divorce. It's pretty fucking fun. Reminded me of that.
That's how it felt sometimes. They would kind of pick me up.
Kids are pretty wise. Like, kids really just say exactly. Oh, yeah. I used to babysit these 2 kids, and they were super rich. Like, they were from like a super rich family. I went to their apartment, you know, to like babysit them. Right. And one of them pointed to the Statue of Liberty, which you could see from their apartment. And she was like, "That's how you know we're rich, because you can see that." And I was like, wow. "You're 6 years old." And you're just saying this. Whereas, like, yeah, I'm sure like her mother and father would be like, "Oh, we're middle class. Like, we live comfortably." No, the 6-year-old's just like, "We're fucking loaded."
That's hilarious. That's awesome. Oh my God.
This actually leads nicely into our listener submissions, because we have a couple. Yes. Espi, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of like middle schoolers, high schoolers listen to this. I mean, they're all dirty assholes too, because, you know, we swear.
They're terrible humans. Yeah.
But we have a couple about like bad teachers.
This is perfect.
Curious to hear what you think. Okay, somebody said, my English teacher this year is so boring that I kept on failing her class because I couldn't bear to listen to her voice. My mom tried telling me that I still had to listen, even though she was kind of boring. So she came into my room as I had Zoom school and sat just off screen so she could see how boring it was too. And she fell asleep 20 minutes later on my carpet. If that doesn't say something, I don't know what will.
That, if I could say, there's nothing better than when you know that you have a bad teacher, but then your parents and everyone around you goes, "Oh no, you're absolutely right. This is a terrible person."
It's such a good feel.
Yeah.
It's so good to be validated.
By an adult too, because when you're a kid, just no one believes you about anything.
No, they don't, which is terrible. So it's nice to like, you're like, yeah, I need someone to believe me. But I also hated that too, because there are cool teachers, but then there's teachers that I'm like, why are you doing this? You're terrible at this job. And it's not even, it's like hard work, you know? I'm like, I don't understand some of the people that go in. I'm like, you are boring and the kids hate you. Like, like, I get it. I can see why.
Nobody likes you. You should kill yourself. Just really mean shit.
I honestly wonder, because it seemed like you became a teacher because you wanted to help kids, but there's some teachers, I don't understand why they became teachers. Like,
yeah,
it seems like
me. I just needed a job, to be honest, and then I fell in love with it.
Nice.
Yeah, but but you also said that you liked kids, so I think there was like a natural inclination where you could make that work at least for a little while. But like, I remember when I was in high school, I had a teacher who she hated kids, and she told us, she was like, "I hate kids." She had a very strange jaw. I think I mentioned her before, Miss Heyman. I'll say her name, Miss Heyman. But yeah, she had red hair. I'll say it. But yeah, she hated kids, and she would tell us every time. And she was also very angry that she was single, and she would tell us, she would just dump her dating woes on us as well. So she used us as her therapist, who she hated. It was a very toxic situation.
Yeah, it sounds weird, man. I can't. A lot of them do that though, and they'll be so like, everybody knows it's like, you hate children. Like, go home, go do anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, that's so.
Is there anything from your childhood that you tried to convince your parents of, but they just wouldn't believe you? Maybe not school, or maybe school related.
That's a good question. I was going to ask a similar question. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. They were I liked how they talked to us when we were kids. Like, Gabby, you were saying your mom would talk to you like anyone else. And like, my parents were like that, because I've always hated, even with like animals and stuff, people are like, "Oh, you're so cute." I'm like, I don't talk. Kids I talk to the same way I talk to like you guys, you know? Like, I feel like it's always, which I like, but my parents are like, they're like cool, but then sometimes, like I said before, they're more conservative about things. So they like just wanted things a certain way. But I feel like they always believed me about stuff. I mean, or if anything, like if we complained about a teacher, they were always like, you just have to work harder, you know, which I, at the time, sometimes was like, oh, but I think like I have a good work ethic because of them.
Yeah.
But no, they were pretty straightforward people.
Yeah.
I like the idea of you talking to a dog the same way you talk to like a kid, the same way you talk to us. Just like, you're a good boy, man. Like,
like, what's up, bro? Like, how's it going? You having a good day? Good.
Yeah. But if I could say, like, I think what your parents said, like, you know, just you kind of have to work through, because even if you are right about like a bad teacher or something, you still kind of have to like make the most of it. So that's actually it's quite useful advice, I would say, what your parents did. I really like that.
I mean, yes and no, because we all want that validation of like having our moms sit in the other room in Zoom school and be like, oh my God, you're right. This teacher is boring. You know,
I still want that.
That field we all want in Zoom school.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd say that, but there we go.
Yeah. Okay. So there's another submission. So who Gabby said, are y'all comedians full time? Also, I thought I'd share this from my high school sophomore English class. We're reading 1984 by George Orwell, and we're learning government types. So we like knew what was happening in the book. My English teacher, he always uses depressing metaphors, and they spiral down, but he's the funniest fucking person, and I look forward to his class. Today he said, communists believe facial hair is cool, and I don't want to be a communist, so I shaved my beard. That's a good joke, actually. I like that.
It's not, but it is, but it's not a nuanced understanding of communism.
It's not, but it's funny.
I appreciate that this guy's good with kids, but it's like, I don't think he's good with English. You know,
I don't think he's being fully serious. I don't think he is. Like, I don't think he's actually saying, yes, I shaved my beard to not look like a communist. Like, he's not being fully serious. I think, yeah,
he's got to be messing around.
Yeah, exactly.
I had an English teacher who was always so excited about the Communist Manifesto. Like, it was just the most exciting thing in the world to him. And then I found out years later it was because that guy was just coked out the whole time.
Oh my God. Wow. It's crazy.
But you know what? I was like, if that's what he needed to do, it's what he needed to do to get jazzed about communism.
Through the day, I'm like, I can't blame you.
We all have our method. Oh, that actually reminds me, when I was in middle school, I had a French teacher who would always give my class detention for talking in class. And it was only after I graduated from middle school that we found out that she actually had schizophrenia and heard voices.
Wow.
And
they just let anyone into teaching.
Yep.
They really do, though. I'm not even kidding. Some of these people, I'm like, where'd you find this person off the street? Like, I get so mad.
The thing is, like, she did look very put together. Like, she was very well dressed, like immaculate hair in a bun, but she heard voices and she was giving a lot of detention to people. It was a bad time.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so the moral of this story is they let anyone into teaching, but this guy's probably nice. All right, one more listener submission. Someone says, I have a weird obsession with the human body, specifically bones. Like, I really like to feel bones under the skin of people and just kind of trace them with my fingers. I also like to watch bodies in motion. Is this Army Hammer? Be honest. Stretch of muscle fiber and the pull of tendons, athletic forms, and anyone with defined tone is eye-catching and fascinating. I don't know how to explain it to people without sounding like a serial killer, and I would love some pointers. If you have any. Side note, I am autistic, if that helps clarify anything. Well, now I feel bad. For calling you Army Hammer. I'm so sorry.
I mean, that's sort of endearing in a nice way, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like they're just trying to be sweet and they like, you know.
Well, I'll tell you this, is that I do know that that there are some people that like have like an interest in like cutting things open and understanding like how the body works, and they grow up to be like very successful surgeons. Because they just have a fascination with the human body and putting stuff back together and stuff. So it's definitely it's definitely an interest that is a little less than typical, but can be useful. So I'll say that. And I'm just thinking about Armie Hammer right now. I'm just thinking about him like stroking the arm of Timothy Chalamet, just going nice and sinewy or something like.
I do think if this person wants pointers on how not to sound like a serial killer, they probably shouldn't lead with like, so I love bones. They could lead with like, I have a fascination with the human form because I find it like mathematical and like it makes sense. I wouldn't just lead with bones. Awesome. Nothing better than a bone.
Yeah.
I think we can give this person the benefit of the doubt, though. I think they know.
I think if they were a real serial killer, they wouldn't write like.
Yeah, they would dress it up better. This is someone who's in touch with themselves, who wouldn't kill people.
If they were a serial killer, maybe they'd write in like, I can't stop killing people, but I don't.
I have this weird kind of thing I do. I love murder. It's kind of my thing.
What would we do? What would you do, Espi, if you came on this podcast and we were like, we're going to give you some quirky listener submissions, and then someone wrote in and was like, so I killed a few people last week.
Yeah.
A lot of that is, I think you have to, I don't know. Well, I mean, it's like, how much information are they giving you? Because anyone can say that. So I'm like, if it's like specific, I'm like, I would call the police and be like, hey, this weird thing happened. I don't really know. But I've like called the police a few times when I'm like, something weird is happening. But I'm like, if it was just someone being like, it's like, I have no information, I can't do anything with this. If they didn't give enough, if they're like, there's a body under this bridge, I would be like, maybe tell someone. I feel like I have to be responsible, I would be like, feel horrible if there's like a killer on my podcast or something. Yeah.
And entered into evidence is the Two Nosy Meerkats podcast.
Yeah.
This serial killer confessed to all his crimes.
I'd love for a DA to issue a subpoena on a Spotify download of ours.
Okay, but this is crazy, but I've always wanted to be the witness in a trial. Like, I've never wanted to do anything wrong.
That would be exciting.
I've never wanted to, like, be the victim, obviously. I've never wanted anyone I love to be a victim. I just wanted to, like, be called to the stand. Because you just talk.
Yeah, but that means you would have to witness something.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
That might be traumatic.
What kind of a crime do you think would be, it would be rough to go through, but it would be enough to get you in the door, and it wouldn't take as much.
Get me in the door, like it's a comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bringer show.
Sort.
A bringer to court. So I only see you brought 7 witnesses.
A bringer trial.
A bringer trial. Oh, for those who don't know, a bringer show is something insane we comedians have to do, where you like bring your friends to watch you do comedy, and you have to bring like
to do them.
Yeah, and that's the only way you can get on stage is if you bring X amount of people to the show.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Oof, yeah, it's.
Wait, Espi,
it's
have
rough.
you done bringers? I have.
No, I don't think I want to. If I can avoid it, it's like it sounds terrible, and I feel bad because I'm like, all my friends are broke comics. What are we gonna just like toss $20 back and forth, so ridiculous.
No, definitely.
I like going to friends bringers because like I like being the troupe who will do it. I like being the person who like. It's like, okay, you're clearly a good friend if you're going to come to my bringer show. And also, I just never mind just watching some weird thing go down in front of me. I hate being the one who has to, I've done a couple bringers. I hate being the one who has to bring people. So I always bring.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I always bring my parents because I know they'll always come, and then they stay until like 2 a.m. and fall asleep. So.
That's sweet. That's nice.
That is very sweet.
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice that they go, for sure. They like my comedy. This podcast debatable, but my comedy.
Yeah. So Espi, we're coming towards the end, I believe. It's something that we do at the end of our podcast is we do something called Self-Perception Corner, where we ask you to say how you think you are perceived by others, and then we tell you how we actually perceive you.
Okay. By other people, probably a little wild on stage, but all in all a good person. Yeah.
I like that.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
That's pretty accurate.
For me, I would describe you as one of the people I think of with the most raw talent and drive in terms of stand-up. That's what I see. That's what I see when I see you. I'm just like, seriously, like I think back to like the few sets that I've seen you do, and I just think, Jesus Christ, she's good. And I just think like how driven you are and how you create like spaces for other people to do stand-up as well. And you're just very contributing. And I'm just every time I see you, I'm impressed by you, basically.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm impressed by you right now. I mean, I think you're definitely I perceive you as maybe like deadpan in a funny way, and also like definitely work ethic. Like I see it. And also maybe this is projecting or whatever, but every time you've said something, I've been like, oh, I do that. So I like perceive that we have like stuff in common, you know? And at one point,
so we're friends now.
We're you know, maybe we've always been friends.
You guys should do a buddy cop movie now.
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah. Let's write it. But I think, you know, it's like, awesome. When you were like, maybe some people might think I'm too much. I'm like, I think people think I'm too much. That's fucking crazy. So I see you as also like being like chill, you know, but there's like other stuff that's gone on that's like led you to become chill. You know, not just one of these chill people who actually is just, you know, born medicinally chill or whatever. Those people exist, and I'm like, how the fuck
medicinally chill?
That's a whole different kind of chill.
Oh my god, yeah, you guys know those people who just like nothing. They're just unflappable, and it's not
sometimes like it's too chill.
Way too chill for me.
Definitely.
I can't do it. It's fucked up. Those are the most fucked up people of all. Those are the real Army Hammers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we don't care if you're a cannibal, but if you're just too chill, if you're just too happy-go-lucky, get the fuck out. Like,
get out of here. We prefer cannibals.
Yeah.
Well, we're acting like there's no chill cannibals, which probably isn't true, because maybe cannibals are the most chill people of all. They're like, I'm eating people. That's fine.
What if the secret to inner peace was human flesh?
Oh no.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. Espi, thank you so much for being on. This was so much fun. Do you have anything to plug?
Yes, social media shows, anything at all, please.
Thank you so much for having me. They can follow me on Instagram at espionage921 or Twitter at Espi Rivadeneira, and I post all my shows and stuff on there.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on. We'll see you all.
This was so much fun.
Listeners next week. Please keep writing into the form.
Yes, please. On our Linktree link on our social media at Nosy Meerkats, you'll find the submission form. Please keep sending us stuff, habits, neuroses, stories, fears, anything, all of the above. And we will see you next time.
Yeah, and keep having your moms fall asleep on Zoom with your English teachers.
If for no other reason than your own health.